London has been one of the most important places in human history, having once been the world's largest city and also the capital of the largest empire the world has ever seen. It is today seen as a shining example of the 21st century, with tall skyscrapers towering over the homes of its 9 million residents. And as much as the London you see today rises up to show how modern and futuristic the cosmopolitan capital really is, heading down below our streets instead is where you can find traces of the city's original foundations, left by the Romans just under 2,000 years ago, when their armies crossed the English Channel and founded a settlement on the north bank of the River Thames between the years 43 and 50. A magnificent example of this is the beautifully preserved Roman Temple of Mithras as featured in my previous video. And as fantastically preserved this Roman discovery truly is, it is by no means the only one. In fact, you can stroll amongst the ruins of another well-preserved Roman structure just a short walk away within the square mile of the city of London itself. Which, by the way, refers to only this tiny part of London, despite its confusing name. And it is located right here, a rather nondescript building that is the Guildhall Art Gallery. On the face of it, or rather inside it, it is a beautifully presented art museum highlighting paintings across different genres of life, from home to work to what you tend to do when you're meant to do your homework. But the true highlight and the jewel in the crown that makes this gallery stand out is what you find when you head down into the gallery's basement. And here it is. Welcome to London's long-lost Roman Amphitheatre. Whilst it was long suspected that the Roman city of Londinium, as it was known then, may have likely had an amphitheatre, given how prevalent these were across the major cities of the Roman Empire, not least the colossal Colosseum in Rome itself that still stands today. It wasn't until the late 20th century, in 1988, when workers excavating the foundations for the rebuilt Guildhall Art Gallery happened to discover the Roman remains of this vast amphitheatre, buried for several centuries under our feet. Once the archaeologists recognized what a marvelous discovery they had stumbled upon, the upcoming gallery's design was completely redrawn and luckily designed in a way so that the ruins of the amphitheatre could be preserved and visited by visitors as part of the gallery, resulting in the fantastic display you see today. Finally opening at the very end of the second millennium in 1999 and the amphitheatre by 2002. Exactly 2 decades before King Charles took over the throne from his mother, for some context, who inaugurated this gallery in 1999. Meanwhile, the amphitheatre itself is today reached by first heading towards the Undercroft Galleries, passing through the City of London Heritage Gallery, and down the signposted staircase from the Undercroft Galleries, situated at level A some 6 meters below the 21st century street level. And you're first welcomed by walking along exactly the same path that the gladiators may have taken whilst entering the arena about 2 millennia ago. This formed the eastern entranceway into the arena during its heyday, and that's the part of the amphitheatre that you get to walk along today, over a millennia and a half later, enclosed by the surviving stone walls of the amphitheatre on each side as you enter. It was first built from wood in around AD 70, around the time of the oldest recorded mention of the name London, and shortly after the new settlement of Londinium was destroyed by Queen Boudicca to the ground, but was rebuilt in the 2nd century with Kentish ragstone and tiles, which is what you see the remains of today, even if only partly. They of course include these stone walls that have survived through nearly 2 millennia of humans, but also on display are the preserved sections of timber drains that would have run below the arena floor to take away excess water during its heyday, even if drains are not the first thing you might think of for a tourist attraction. Complemented by a drain slump, or boxel trap, or settling tank, depending on what you like to call it, which were also originally covered and collected the debris from the drains to avoid blockages and stop them clogging up. They can interestingly walk over if you don't mind risking sinking into drainage, thanks to the glassy panels, whilst the rest of the drain routes are marked on the floor in stainless steel. Marked in rectangular brass alongside them in parallel meanwhile is the site where a large timber threshold was found, otherwise known as the gateway threshold. Named so as it supported a gateway for controlling animals to enter into the arena, which, you heard that right. This amphitheater was used for entertainment indeed, but in the Roman style. As you would expect, this involved a lot of brutality, with public executions taking place here, as well as wild animals being released in this exact space to combat, together with gladiatorial clashes, just like those presented in the fantastic Hollywood film. So remember, the next time you're having a beef with Londoners, at least it won't be as wild as this 2000 years later. And those wild animals would have been released through trapdoors that may have stood where these indentations and grooves now are today. And this leads to the space that would have been the chambers on either side of the eastern entrance, or perhaps may have been used for shrines for gods. But one thing that's for certain is the fact that the sand and gravel that these vaults are guarded by are originals from the Roman era. Yeah, didn't ever think that I would be so excited about gravels, which is why even touching them is prohibited. But hey, the fact that we are able to even get so close to such historic ruins, which are a scheduled monument by historic England, shouldn't go underestimated. But what you also may not have otherwise realized is that whilst you can of course explore this fragment of the curved arena walls flanked by the rooms on each side underground in person, it is only a small part that we have managed to excavate of what would have been a much larger structure. And you can still get a sense of how enormous the amphitheater would have really been today if you head back above ground into the square that is the Guildhall Yard, and look for these black paving slates on the surface, because these mark the outline and footprint of what the amphitheater would have taken, as the slab tries to inform us, and delineates the exact circumference of the amphitheater, parts of which are of course right below today as we explore. This tells us that comparing to modern day equivalents, the amphitheater would have been much larger than the Wimbledon tennis courts and about the same size as the Wembley football stadium, but of course would have been elliptical in shape instead. Enough to welcome around 6,000 to 10,000 spectators at its peak, at a time when London's population would have been just about 20 to 30,000 human beings. It is worth noting, by the way, that there have been certain other portions of the former amphitheater excavated and preserved, as highlighted in these maps. However, they aren't in public view, and this is the best we can see with our eyes today. And one place you can get a great view of the site, or perhaps the best view, is from the balcony on level C, right opposite the City of London Heritage Gallery, next to the lifts and staircase. Not to be confused by the actual balcony gallery that's on level A3, just so you know. And just beside the view are panels of history, complete with photographs narrating the 2,000 years of history of the amphitheater that's well worth a stop by and having a read. And right opposite of which are gorgeous artifacts that have been uncovered as part of the amphitheater's excavations, right along the study room, both from the Roman as well as medieval eras. Some of the more interesting highlights from the Roman section include this collection of Roman utensils and dishes, though pizza had sadly not been invented yet, alongside a selection of copper alloy coins, as well as wooden writing tablets, which would have been written with the help of a stylus with an iron point as we move over to the medieval section. And this is shown alongside a small cosmetic implement, essentially their equivalent of our earbuds and toothpicks today. Nearby too, a bone spoon. Yeah, that was a thing. Though even more interesting are these animal bones that have been crafted as ice skates even back then. You may ask why, and the gallery's paintings can help you answer them. And almost forgot to mention these Roman Samian pottery bowls, depicting gladiatorial combat that would have taken place here, which is personal to me, as in not that I own them myself of course, but because I personally happened to discover a similar looking shard buried inside a crater of the wall that may indeed be a piece of Samian ware with its distinctive red gloss glaze amongst the stone, or perhaps a broken part of these themselves, who knows. And yeah, you can check them out yourself right next to the disabled access shortcut pathway leading to and from the lifts. Though overall, it has been really fascinating to explore and be able to get such close to ancient Roman ruins like this, meticulously preserved underground together with informational tables to guide you, also available in printed form that you can choose to learn from, complete with modern touches like this digital lit background of gladiatorial scenes to bring life to this exhibit, some of which can also be a little funny to observe, I must say. And don't miss checking out this lovely Colosseum kaleidoscope by Anne Desmet right by the amphitheater's entrance, installed as part of the gallery's 25th anniversary in the past year. And of course, there's plenty more to the gallery itself, with lots of elegant paintings on display dotted around the building that may also deserve their own video. The one thing I wanted to highlight is the cloakroom of the gallery that's next to the study room and artifacts, which, for whatever reason, looks quite fancy and nicely built for what it is, but always appears to be totally empty whenever I visit. Perhaps to remember all the gladiators who would have gotten ready with their costumes here before being killed in the arena, perhaps. Either way, it is definitely worth making a visit here whenever you're around Guildhall, right in the heart of the city. It's totally priceless and especially a must visit if you're into art or history. It is also worth noting that the amphitheater is often open for free historical events to take place, such as this fun family-friendly Roman quest in the form of a trail exploring Londinium, and also this fantastic mudlarking exhibition where you can have a look at the diverse variety of artifacts that can be found along a river Thames, from pottery to coins to even Hindu artifacts that often invite large interested crowds. And as always, many thanks for watching all the way here, and make sure to thumbs this video up, as every one like would equal one prayer for every gladiator here that was tragically... Actually, I ain't doing all that. That would be way too selfish of me, don't worry. But you can still comment, share, and subscribe though. No harm in that, of course.